If you have a gun with Made in Belgium stamped on it, there's a real chance it's worth serious money nowadays. This video covers exactly which Belgian-marked guns are worth serious money, what the markings actually mean, and how to identify what you're holding before it's too late. First, I need you to understand why it's suddenly become worth so much money. Belgium didn't just make guns. Belgium certified them. The proof house in Liège, the Banque de Preuve, has been operating continuously since 1672. That's older than the United States. Every firearm produced in Belgium had to pass through it before it could legally leave the country. But here's where it gets interesting. The proof marks stamped at Liège aren't just quality control. They're a permanent, unforgeable record of exactly when and where that gun was made, what pressure it was tested to, and whether it passed. The primary mark is the ELG stamp, an oval containing the letters ELG beneath a star, topped with a crown. That mark means the gun was proofed at Liège. But then it gets more specific. The year of proof is encoded in the mark itself through a letter system that changed each decade. If you know the code, you can date a Belgian firearm to within a single year without touching the serial number. Most owners never learn this. That's exactly why Belgian guns get misidentified at estate sales and sold for a fraction of what they're worth. Now, here's the detail that surprises people. American manufacturers sent guns to Belgium for proofing. When Browning's American-designed firearms were built at FN in Liège, they received Belgian proof marks before export, which means a gun marked Made in Belgium. And carrying ELG stamps isn't just foreign-made. It's been through one of the most rigorous certification processes in the history of firearms manufacturing. That stamp isn't decorative, it's documentation. And at auction, documentation is money. Rock Island auction catalogers treat Belgian proof marks as primary authentication evidence, not secondary. A gun with clean, matching Liège proof marks and correct period roll marks will pull a completely different bidder pool than the same model without them. The marks are harder to fake than any serial number because they require the correct die impression, the correct placement, and the correct combination for the stated production year. If the stamps match, the gun is real. That's what Belgian proof marks buy you in the collector market: certainty. And certainty is what drives price. You think Browning is an American company. That's the first mistake most collectors make. John Moses Browning was American, born in Ogden, Utah, in 1855, but the guns that made his name were built in Belgium. In 1897, Browning walked into the FN Fabrique Nationale factory in Liège with a design that Winchester had turned down. FN didn't turn it down. They built it. That handshake between a Utah gunmaker and a Belgian factory produced the most consequential manufacturing partnership in firearms history. The Browning High Power, the Auto 5, and the Superposed, none of them exist without Liège. But then the story gets more valuable than most people realize. Pre-war FN production guns carried different roll marks than post-war guns. The pre-World War II FN Browning High Power, made between 1935 and 1940, has a specific serial number range, a tangent rear sight, and a slotted grip for a shoulder stock attachment. Those features disappeared after the war, which means if you find one of those early guns with matching numbers and original finish, you're not holding a pistol. You're holding a pre-war Belgian artifact. Rock Island has moved matched correct pre-war high powers for $4,000 to over $12,000, depending on condition and provenance. But then there's the wartime production window, and this is where it gets complicated. During the German occupation of Belgium from 1940 to 1944, FN was forced to produce high powers for the Wehrmacht. Those guns carry German Waffenamt inspection stamps alongside the Belgian proof marks. Most people assume those stamps hurt value. They're wrong. Occupation production high powers with matching Waffen-amped stamps are among the most actively collected World War II pistols on the market right now. A correct matching example brought $9,200 at Rock Island in 2023. But here's the detail that almost nobody checks. The Wehrmacht-issued high powers were assigned to specific units and theaters. Some examples carry additional markings, holster stamps, unit designations, bring-back paperwork that add a provenance layer completely separate from the gun itself. A high power with documented bring-back papers from a named soldier has sold for nearly double a clean matching example without them. The paperwork isn't a bonus, it's a multiplier. The roll mark on your FN Browning isn't just a brand, it's a timestamp. And the timestamp is what the serious money is chasing. Most people think the FAL is just a military rifle. That misunderstanding is costing collectors real money every single week. The FN FAL, Fusil Automatique Léger, was adopted by over 90 countries between the 1950s and 1980s. It was the rifle NATO almost standardized before American politics intervened, and the M14 was chosen instead. That near miss is exactly what drives collector interest today. But then it gets more specific. There are two FAL receiver patterns, metric and inch. FN in Belgium made the metric pattern. The British, Australians, and Canadians made the inch pattern under license. At auction, Belgian metric FALs with documented import history outperform inch pattern examples from other manufacturers by a consistent margin. The reason is simple. Belgian production is the original. Everything else is a licensed copy. But here's what most collectors don't know about the American market. Semi-automatic FAL imports from Belgium were effectively ended by the 1989 import ban signed under President George H.W. Bush. That executive action prohibited the importation of semi-automatic rifles that didn't meet a sporting purpose test. The FN FAL failed that test, which means every Belgian-made semi-auto FAL that came in before 1989 is now a closed population. No new supply is coming. The guns that exist are the guns that exist. That's the supply freeze that turns a military surplus rifle into a collector asset. Pre-ban Belgian FALs in original configuration with matching numbers are currently trading between $3,500 and $7,500 at Rock Island, depending on variant and condition. Correct furniture, original flash hider, and documented pre-ban import markings push the top of that range significantly higher. What most buyers don't expect is this: a correctly documented Belgian FAL with original accessories has cleared $9,000 at auction. That's not a military surplus price. That's a collector market price. And there's one more detail that separates a $4,000 FAL from a $7,500 FAL, the import mark. Pre-ban FALs brought into the country by importers like Steyr, Browning Arms, or Century International Arms carry specific importer roll marks on the receiver. Those marks confirm the gun entered the country legally before the 1989 cutoff. Without that mark, provenance becomes a conversation. With it, provenance is documented. The 1989 import ban is the reason those two prices are no longer the same gun. John Browning died at his workbench inside the FN factory in Liege on November 26, 1926. He was finishing a gun. That gun became the Superposed, the world's first successful over-under shotgun to reach commercial production at scale. Most people know the Superposed as a pretty shotgun. That's an expensive misconception. The Belgian-made Superposed ran from 1931 to 1976. After 1977, production shifted to Japan, to Morocco, and the gun fundamentally changed. The roll mark tells you everything. A Belgian-made Superposed says "Made in Belgium" and carries Liège proof marks. A Miroku-made gun says "Made in Japan." The collector market treats those two sentences completely differently. But then the grade system is where the real money lives. FN produced the Superposed in escalating grades, grade 1 through grade 6, then named grades: Pigeon, Pointer, Diana, Midas. A grade 1 Belgian Superposed in good condition brings $2,500 to $4,000 at auction. But then a Pigeon grade with original case brings $6,000 to $10,000. A Diana grade, hand-engraved, gold-inlaid, factory original, has sold for over $28,000 at Rock Island. The Midas grade is rarer still. Matching number Midas examples in original condition with documentation have cleared $40,000. That's for a shotgun that someone's grandfather bought to hunt pheasant. But here's the detail most owners miss entirely. The Superposed was also produced in presentation configurations, gifted to heads of state, military officers, and visiting dignitaries by FN and the Belgian government directly. Those guns carry additional documentation, additional engraving density, and a provenance layer that takes them completely outside normal auction comparables. If your Superposed has any paperwork, any fitted case, any engraving you cannot immediately explain, have it examined by someone who specializes in Belgian firearms before you do anything else with it. The difference between a standard grade 1 and a correctly identified presentation gun is not incremental, it's categorical. Between the wars, FN did not just make Browning designs, they made Mausers. And not just any Mausers, they made the finest commercially produced Mauser actions in the world. The FN commercial Mauser, produced primarily in the 1920s and 1930s, was the action that custom rifle makers across Europe and America used as their foundation. Griffin and Howe in New York built custom rifles on FN actions. So did Holland and Holland in London. When the most expensive custom rifle builders in the world are choosing your action as their starting platform, that tells you exactly where it sits in the quality hierarchy. But then the military contract variants tell a different story entirely. FN produced Mauser pattern rifles on contract for Colombia, Egypt, Luxembourg, Venezuela, and the Belgian military itself through the interwar period and into the early post-war years. Each contract variant has specific markings, specific crest configurations, and specific production windows. Colombian contract FN Mausers with intact crests and matching numbers are currently bringing $1,200 to $2,500 at auction. Egyptian contract examples, particularly the post-World War II production that Egypt used through the 1948 and 1956 conflicts, carry a historical weight that collectors pay for entirely separately from mechanical condition. But here is what most people do not know about FN Mauser identification. The action itself carries proof marks, the barrel carries proof marks, and the stock hardware carries proof marks. A fully matching FN Mauser has proofed components throughout, not just a matching serial number on the receiver and bolt. When all the stamps align, when the proof marks match the stated production year, when the crest is intact and unaltered, that is a categorically different gun from a shooter with mismatched parts. A matching numbers FN commercial Mauser in original military configuration brought $3,400 at Rock Island in a recent sale. The same model with a replacement stock and reblued barrel went for $800. The difference is not the gun. The difference is proof that the gun has not been touched. There is one more FN Mauser detail that changes the number significantly. The commercial Mauser Actions FN produced for the private market were offered in calibers unavailable on the military contracts, including 7x57, 30-06, and .270 Winchester. A commercial-grade FN Mauser in .270 Winchester with controlled round feed and an original barrel built during the late 1930s is not a military surplus gun. It is a pre-war precision sporting rifle on the best production action of its era. Those guns in clean original condition are bringing $2,800 to $4,500 at auction, and buyers are still finding them at estate sales priced as hunting rifles. 50 years of continuous Belgian production. No other semi-automatic shotgun in history ran that long at a single factory in a single country. The Browning Auto 5 entered production at FN in 1902, and Belgian manufacture continued until 1976. That's not a product run, that's a dynasty, but most owners don't know how to read what they have. The Belgian Auto 5 carries a date code stamped on the barrel, a two-letter combination that corresponds to a specific year of manufacture. The code is documented and publicly available, but the vast majority of owners never look it up, which means guns are being sold at used shotgun prices when they're carrying pre-war or early post-war production dates that place them in an entirely different collector category. But then the Sweet 16 changes everything. The 16-gauge Auto 5, the Sweet 16, was produced in Belgium on a scaled-down receiver built specifically for the 16-gauge shell. It was not a 12-gauge frame bored out to accept a smaller shell. It was a purpose-built action designed from the ground up for the 16-gauge. FN discontinued the Sweet 16 before Belgian production ended entirely, which means the window for Belgian Sweet 16s is narrower than the standard 12-gauge run. Collectors pay specifically for that narrower window. A standard Belgian 12-gauge Auto 5 in very good condition brings $900 to $1,800 at auction, depending on configuration and date code. But then a Belgian Sweet 16 in the same condition brings $1,500 to $3,200. Add a trap or skeet configuration, add an original fitted case with accessories, add a documented early production date, and the number moves again. The highest Auto 5 results at Rock Island consistently involve three factors: Belgian manufacture confirmed by Liege proof marks, correct date code matching the stated configuration, and original factory finish without any refinishing. Refinishing destroys value on Belgian Auto 5s faster than any other single factor. The original FN Rust Blue is part of the authentication package. Strip it, and you've stripped the premium with it. There is one mark on Belgian firearms that most owners walk past without a second look. It will cost them more money than almost any other identification error in the collector market. The presentation grade designation. FN produced standard commercial guns, and then they produced something else entirely. Engraved, embellished, case-fitted presentation pieces commissioned as diplomatic gifts, produced for heads of state, and sold to the wealthiest private buyers in the world. Those guns don't always look dramatically different from the outside. Sometimes the difference is in the density and quality of the engraving coverage. Sometimes it's in gold inlay work that's been partially worn and is now being mistaken for standard factory decoration. Sometimes it's in a fitted leather case with a brass nameplate on the lid that the current owner never had translated from French, but then the auction results tell you exactly what that identification gap means in dollar terms. A standard Belgian Browning Superposed Grade 1, $3,000. The same gun correctly identified as a factory presentation piece with supporting documentation, $18,000. That gap is not about condition. That gap is entirely about knowledge. Here's the authentication detail most people don't know exists. FN kept records. The factory archive in Herstal contains production ledgers that can confirm the original configuration, grade designation, and in some cases, the original purchaser of a specific gun by serial number. Professional authentication services can access those records directly. which means a gun that looks like a standard commercial production piece can be confirmed as a presentation grade or definitively ruled out, with documentation that simply didn't exist in the American market until relatively recently. If your Belgian gun has engraving, has fitted case hardware, has any marking you cannot immediately identify, serial number research through FN's archive is not optional. It's the difference between selling a $3,000 gun and selling an $18,000 gun. Rock Island specialist catalogers catch some of these at consignment, but they rely on what the consignor tells them and on what they can physically examine in the time available before the catalog closes. The owner who already knows what they have controls the outcome. The owner who doesn't is leaving money on the table at the exact moment it matters most. Every Belgian marked gun in your collection deserves one question before anything else happens to it. Do you actually know what you have? Not what you paid for it, not what the previous owner told you. What the proof marks say, what the roll marks say, what the date codes say, and what the FN archive can confirm before you make any decision about that gun. The collector market for Belgian firearms is not slowing down. The supply is permanently closed on most of these categories. The authentication tools are more accessible than they have ever been, and the buyers who know exactly what they're looking for are paying prices that would have seemed impossible 15 years ago. Check the marks, research the serial number, and before you sell, consign, or pass that gun on to anyone, find out what you're actually holding. Drop the Belgian model you own in the comments below.